Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we welcome you again on another video session by Aussizz Group in Clayton. Myself, Kamaljeet Singh, Digital Migration Agent working at Aussizz Group in Clayton, and we've again joined with us is Mr. Grish Kumar Patel, working at Aussizz Group Clayton. And Mr. Grish, do introduce us what this video session is going to be about.
Thank you, Kamaljeet, for a brief introduction. Today we're going to talk about the Emperor Skill Regional Sponsored Visa. It's called Subclass 494. It's about the Emperor sponsor. Those who are having businesses in designated regional area and willing to sponsor to their skilled employee can be eligible to apply for this particular visa.
So basically, Mr. Grish, you're trying to say if there's a business in regional and they want to sponsor an overseas worker, if there is skill shortage in regional, so the business can sponsor them in this category, yes?
Yes, so that's what we're going to discuss in the whole.
So how many streams do we have in this visa?
On the 494 Emperor sponsor visa, we got two streams. Number one is called Emperor sponsor stream. Another one is called labor agreement stream. So today we're going to discuss about the Emperor stream itself. The Emperor stream is all about that if individual business want to sponsor an overseas skilled person into that particular business, then looking for the skilled person and could not able to find a genuine skilled person from the regional or designated area, can sponsor particularly this visa. So
if an employer wants to sponsor overseas applicant for this visa, what stages does he have to follow in regards to when it comes to SBS, or does he have to do all those kind of things?
Yeah, so there are technically 3 steps involved in this visa. Number one is called a standard business sponsorship plus regional certifying body. You need to get an approval from the regional certifying body as well. It's called RCB. So SBS plus RCB, the first step. The second step is called nomination. The business need to provide the labor market testing, need to provide the salary report, need to provide that whether the business got a scope and scale into that business, and the visa application itself.
Alright, Mr. Patel, so this was a sort of a small brief introduction in regards to employer sponsoring. The main questions we are getting from our applicants is mostly they are interested to know about the visa criteria. So what is required for the visa criteria? What are the mandatory requirements if you want to lodge 494 visa?
So basically what happened is that first of all you need to meet, as Kamalji said, that you need to meet the visa criteria requirement first. Once you are meeting that criteria, then we look up the employer's profile. So rather than to talk about the employer profile, we're going to talk about the main applicant's visa criteria. The first criteria that you must need to meet is you must need a 6 bands in relevant IELTS or PT or relevant English proficiency. So that means you need a 6 bands in each one in IELTS or PT. Number one. Number two, you must need a migration skill assessment to apply for this visa. So migration skill assessment is all about you need to get a full skill assessment from the relevant body. Okay. And the third criteria, that is a very much important criteria, is that you must need 3 years equivalent full-time experience. So for example, we're going to talk about what kind of experience you should require to apply for this visa.
Before we go forward, Mr. Grish, okay, you've mentioned that you must have a competent English, which is minimum 6 in each of the module, whether we are doing PT, IELTS or any of them.
And that is required at the time of application.
Okay. Second requirement is you said you must have a mandatory skill assessment. Now, when a candidate lodged his 485, say in a trade course, he lodged a skill assessment for 485.
That is called a provisional skill assessment. When you apply for the 485 visa, you need to apply for the provisional skill assessment. So that will not be validated to apply for this visa.
So okay, the candidate needs to have a migration full skill assessment
that you do during your job ready program.
No worries. So for that particular, we might do another video how we're gonna get that. The third requirement you mentioned is you must have 3 years of work experience.
That's true.
Before we move on to 3 years of work experience, is there any exemption on skill assessment, Mr. Patel?
Well, you would get a skill exemption, but that is the only limited occupations that we talk about. But majority occupation mandatory requirement for the skill assessment.
All right. We do understand that candidates have been working on 457 or 482 visas, and if they want to apply for this visa,
They do get exemption.
So they do not need to provide a skill assessment.
No.
So if the visa has been granted, say 457 and 482, they already provided the skill assessment, then in that case, they don't need to give skill assessment for 49.
No, they don't need to give them skill
That's good.
assessment.
So this is a good news for applicants who are holding 457 or 482 visas, that if you've already provided department with a skill assessment when that particular visa was lodged and was granted, then you don't need to provide skill assessment.
However, you still need to provide the skill assessment, but you must require, even though if it is not validated, still it can going to be accepted into apply for 494 visa.
Alright, Mr. Patel. Moving on to, before we move on to work experience, Mr. Patel, can you give us a little bit more about what occupations we are today focusing on? Because we do understand there are IT, trade people, but give us some of other occupations which normally candidates, agents do not talk about. We want to discuss about more occupations which are not that busy in market.
See, there are a lot of candidates who have applied the 457 or 482 before, and they have been granted this visa, and their occupation falls under the STSO list, short-term skill visa, short-term skill occupational list, and they do not have any pathway to onwards to apply for permanent residence visa. So what we pushing those clients, we recommend to those clients to go for that particular 494 skill regional sponsored visa, because if you have a skill, you can find an employer easily from the regional area, because the regional area always looking for the skilled employees to work with that business. So we talk about the hairdresser. For example, hairdresser falls under the short-term skill occupation list. So that occupation, there are a lot of candidates. I can see that those who are on already 457 visa or previously had 457 visa, or they apply 187 visa or 16 visa, and that application got refused, and they do not have any pathway. So I would tell those clients that make sure you go for the 494 visa. It's the easiest pathway, very quick visa. You would get within 1 to 3 months visas. Each and every process goes beyond the, it's within the time frame, and it's like granting within the 2 to 3 months visas. So I'm in 2 to 3 months of time frame. So hairdressing is there, occupations, baker is there, real estate representative occupation is there. We can talk about the nursery person. There are a lot of candidates into the market who are working into the nursery person. As a nursery person in nursery, been working there for more than 3-4 years, they could be eligible to apply for this visa if they have a skill assessment. We also talk about the maintenance planner. Maintenance planner means that if you are working in a factory, or if you are working in a businesses like production house, and if you are working as a maintenance planner, you can be eligible to apply for these visas. So these are the occupation. A very much important occupation, we can talk about the retail manager. Retail manager means store manager. Those who are working into the food and fast food manager. Fast food manager means that if you are working in a shop like Domino's Pizza or food work in regional area or IGA, and if you are working as a manager over there, you could be eligible to apply for this particular visa if you get skill assessment under the retail manager.
Alright, thanks for that, Mr. Gresh. Moving on to, we've heard about a lot of hairdressers.
Yeah.
They've been holding 457 or 482 visas. So do you recommend that this visa is going to be a beneficial, and is that occupation going to be easy for the candidate to find in regional?
Obviously, because the hairdresser is a high demand occupation, even though it does not fall under the long-term list, but as per my recommendation, the government should put into the long-term skill visa. But hairdresser is a highly demandable occupation, especially in regional area.
Thanks for that, Mr. Patel. One short question we want to ask Mr. Patel. When we are going to get skill assessment, we have seen most of the candidates are using RPL qualification. If a skill assessment has been approved on the basis of RPL, is that valid for this visa?
No, if you have gained the skill assessment on the basis of RPL, now RPL means recognized prior learning, that those candidates who got prior experience, and they get the RPL certificate. On that basis, they apply for the skill assessment. If you have gained the RPL on the basis of experience, and if you have applied the skill assessment, will not be a validate.
Thanks for that, Mr. Patel. As guys, you've already heard from our senior migration agent, if your occupation is hairdresser, baker, real estate representative, nursery person, or maintenance planner, or there are some more occupations with
retail manager as well.
Retail manager, this visa is a beneficial visa for you guys, but keeping in mind, if you've already got a refusal for 186 or 187, section 48 applies on you. You might have to further discuss with your migration agent on that matter. Moving forward, Mr. Krish, if a person has got his dependent child or his partner, can he include them in the visa as well?
Once the application has been lodged, let's say if you have applied an application under 494 skilled regional visa, you can add your child if the child is born during the process. But if let's assume that if you got married and if you would like to add your spouse into the visa application, you cannot add it.
Alright, Mr. Patel, there's one occupation called post office manager.
Yes.
We've heard a lot of
applicants are working in post office manager.
Yes.
If you are working for more than 3 years of if you have 3 years of experience, and if you are working full time or equivalent part time, minimum 20 hours per week, it's very good news that if you're having experience equivalent part time as well, the 494, you can eligible to apply for 494 as well. Let's assume that if you got 6 years of equivalent part time experience for 6 years, can be considered as equivalent full time for 3 years as well.
So that's a great news, guys.
Yeah.
That means if you were working 20 hours basically per week, that can be considered equivalent full time.
Full time, yes, that's right. Let's say if you are working 6 months part time, if you work 6 months part time in your normal occupations, can be considered equivalent 3 months full time as well.
Okay, so how long is the processing time period for this, Mr. Patel?
Maximum 3 to 4 months. Recently, we have seen that applicants has been granted visa within 1 week as well.
So
very quick process, I would say, because government is pushing everyone to go in regional area.
So I'll probably say, guys, as Mr. Patel said, it's approximately 3 to 4 months. It's a very proper good visa. Now, moving on to conditions. We've seen when it comes to employer-sponsored visas, you are binded by some of those conditions. What are the conditions if this visa is getting granted that candidate should be following?
The first condition you must need to follow, that you must start the work within the 90 days. That means you must start your work within the 90 days. So 90 days, only 3 months. So if you not started your work within 3 months, then your visa will likely to get cancelled. Secondly, you must update your addresses. You must update your mobile number and everything within the 15 days as well. If any circumstances change, also you need to update within 15 days. Third, it's very much important part, you must work for at least 3 years with the nominal occupations, with the nominate employer. So let's say if you've been sponsored by a particular A company, you must be working only with that A company within that 3 years in 5 years, because this visa will be granted for 5 years. So you must be working with the same company until your permanent residence visa will grant. So if you not work with 3 years with that same company, with the same nominal employer, then your visa will likely to get cancelled. You can also change your employer if you would like to get the new employer, but make sure you need to apply for the RCB, SPS and nomination again.
Okay. Just keeping in mind, if we are changing the occupation, we might have to see whether the skill.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You can also change the occupation, but you need to require the same kind of experience that you're applying for in a particular number occupation. You need to have experience in that particular number new field.
So if I've been working for 3 years as a cook, and further some employer wants to sponsor me as a chef, Mr. Patel, can I go in that one?
No, we can't go with that, because cook got different occupations category. Let's say they got a ends cook, or when you talk about the unit group, cook has got different unit group and chef got different unit group. So it does not consider the equivalent experience at all.
So being the lower occupation, you cannot nominate the higher occupation.
Nah, but from the higher to lower, you can go from higher to lower. For example,
so person is a chef, he can go as a cook.
Cook, yeah.
Alright,
that's the definition about the skilled employment as well.
Okay.
So let's say if you do not have the highly load and scope occupations experience, then if you have the higher experience, the skill experience, then you can go with the lower occupations category as well.
Alright, moving on to the main question, Mr. Patel. Is this visa going to lead me towards permanent residency in Australia?
Obviously, it is actually conditional permanent residence visa. It is a permanent residence visa, but it comes with a condition. That condition means that you must work with the nominated employer for at least 3 years. You must earn at least $54,000 minimum threshold as requested. Plus, you must live, or if you want to study, you must do everything within that particular designated area, and you cannot live in a metropolitan area. And after 3 years, you can be eligible to apply for 191 permanent residence visa. and then once you grant the permanent residence visa, then you will get a permanent residence visa which have no additional condition.
So, guys, wrapping up, Mr. Patel, can you just give us a brief what requirements candidate needs to follow in regards to getting this visa?
Yeah, first thing we talk about the SPS nominations. SPS nomination needs to apply from the employers itself. So make sure the employer need to meet the financial requirement. The secondly, employer must do the labor market testing before nominate some a skilled employee into that particular visa applications. And third, important for the visa applicant, you must need a 3 years of full-time experience or equivalent part-time experience. You must need a 6 niche in IELTS or PT. You must need a migration skill assessment to apply for this visa. And it's very much important to make sure you have a relevant experience in your particular nominal occupations to be eligible to apply for this visa. Important is that if you have like let's say a spouse who is you would like to apply an application, make sure your spouse must be added before you lodge an application. You cannot add your spouse during your applications at all.
Okay. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this was a video session done on 494. We do understand you might have a lot of questions in regards to this visa.
You can also make your questions in below sections. You can raise your questions in below section. We'll definitely try to solve your queries and questions as well.
And if you want to meet us in person, we've got our branch in Thomastown, Werribee, Clayton, and in City, Melbourne. And me, myself, Kamaljeet and Mr. Girish Patel, we are working at Aussizz Group in Clayton. And we do hope this was a bit of information, basic information session. Every candidate has different case. We do urge you to visit us in person, face to face, and talk about more about this visa. And hopefully this video will give you another information in regards to this visa.
Yeah, now if you have any question, yeah, that's a good thing. If you have any question, you can definitely ask me or Kamaljeet at our Clayton Aussizz Group office, and we definitely try to solve your queries. Thank you very much.
Alright, thanks guys. Have a nice day.
You too.